There comes a moment in every marriage when the question of trust rises to the surface. Not in the small ways, not in the everyday misunderstandings or the harmless disappointments, but in the seismic moments that shake the very foundation two people vowed to build together. And few questions are heavier, more painful, or more haunting than this one: can a relationship survive cheating? When betrayal enters a marriage, it doesn't knock. It breaks in. It breaks in loudly, violently, shattering the quiet routines and the familiar comfort. It scatters pieces of trust across the floor and leaves the one who has been betrayed standing in the ruins, breathless, unsure, trying to understand what just happened. And the partner who cheated, whether they admit it immediately or sit in the shadow of regret, often stands in a different kind of silence, one filled with shame, fear, or denial. In those moments, everything feels fragile. Your memories feel questioned. Your future feels uncertain. The laughter you once shared feels tainted. Even your reflection in the mirror asks you questions you aren't ready to answer. But let me say something that might surprise you. Cheating is not always the end of a marriage. It can be, and for some people, it should be. But for other couples, the story does not have to end at betrayal. It can become a turning point, a breaking open, a reckoning, a truth-telling moment that demands change, healing, and a new level of honesty that perhaps never existed before. Before you label that as forgiveness for the sake of convenience or weakness, understand something essential: surviving infidelity is not about pretending it didn't happen. It is not about minimizing the pain. It is not about simply moving on. It is about confronting every layer of the truth and choosing whether rebuilding is possible, whether rebuilding is healthy, and whether rebuilding is something both partners are truly willing to do. The question isn't just whether a relationship can survive cheating. The real question is deeper. Should it? And if so, how? Cheating does not happen in a vacuum. It is not always about a lack of love. More often, it is about disconnection. Sometimes it is about loneliness that wasn't spoken out loud. Sometimes it is about emotional needs that were ignored, dismissed, or misunderstood. Sometimes it is about selfishness, immaturity, or unresolved wounds that a person never learned how to express. And yes, sometimes it is simply an act of weakness, a moment of impulse, or a deliberate choice that had nothing to do with the marriage at all. None of these explanations make the betrayal less painful. But they remind us of an important truth: cheating is a symptom. It is not the disease itself. And if a couple wants to survive it, they must be willing to look beyond the symptom and face the illness, the distance, the patterns, the communication failures, or the emotional wounds that allowed the door to open in the first place. Healing from infidelity begins with truth. Not a partial truth, not a softened truth, not a convenient truth, but the full truth, even when it shakes the healer's voice, even when it stings the listener's heart. Without truth, trust cannot grow back. It will not grow on guesses. It will not grow on assumptions. It will not grow on vague explanations. Then comes accountability. The partner who cheated must be willing to carry the weight of what they've done, not defensively, not resentfully, not impatiently, but fully. They must show remorse through actions, not just words. They must be willing to answer difficult questions, to sit with uncomfortable emotions, to accept the slow rebuilding of trust without demanding quick forgiveness or immediate normalcy. And the partner who was betrayed must be allowed to feel, to grieve, to be angry, to cry, to question everything for a while. Their healing cannot be rushed, minimized, or judged. Betrayal is trauma, and trauma does not disappear because the betrayer suddenly feels ready to fix things. Healing is a journey, not a command. But survival does not rest on the shoulders of one person. Rebuilding a marriage after cheating requires two people walking toward the pain instead of away from it. It requires both partners to examine what was broken long before the betrayal happened. It requires asking hard questions about communication, intimacy, emotional safety, and unmet needs. It requires courage, a courage that feels rare these days. Because it is easier to walk away than it is to rebuild. It is easier to declare the marriage over than to sit through the vulnerable work of healing. It is easier to protect your pride than to admit your heart is still attached, still hopeful, still wanting to fight for what once felt sacred. But sometimes, staying is not weakness. Sometimes, staying is strength. And sometimes, leaving is strength, too. The truth is, cheating does not automatically mean the end of a marriage. But it also does not automatically mean the beginning of a deeper one. The outcome depends on who the two people are and who they are willing to become after the destruction. Some couples emerge stronger, more connected, more honest, more intentional. They learn to communicate in ways they never did before. They finally address issues that had been buried for years. They rediscover each other, not as the idealized versions they once pretended to be, but as flawed, vulnerable, real partners willing to grow. Other couples collapse under the weight of betrayal. Trust does not return. Resentment grows. Forgiveness feels impossible. The wound refuses to close. And sometimes the most loving decision two people can make is to let go, to walk separate paths, and to heal individually. There is no universal answer. There is no simple formula. But there are truths worth holding onto. A marriage cannot survive cheating through denial. A marriage cannot survive cheating through silence. A marriage cannot survive cheating through forced forgiveness. A marriage cannot survive cheating if the betrayer does not change, or if the one betrayed cannot safely express the depth of their pain. A marriage cannot survive if love becomes fear, if trust becomes suspicion, or if connection becomes obligation. But a marriage can survive cheating if both hearts choose to do the work. If both hearts choose radical honesty. If both hearts choose understanding over defensiveness, compassion over ego, and growth over blame. Survival is possible when both partners decide that the marriage is worth saving, not because of the history, not because of the children, not because of the fear of being alone, but because both believe that what they have, what they can have, is worth fighting for. Survival requires rebuilding the relationship from the ground up. Not patching the cracks, not rearranging the furniture, but laying new bricks, one at a time, with patience and intention. And the truth is, cheating sometimes forces a couple to have conversations they should have had years before. Conversations about boundaries, about emotional needs, about intimacy, about respect, about how they handle conflict, about how they show love, about how they connect, about what they both fear, desire, or struggle with. Cheating forces you to look at the relationship as it truly is, not as you wished it to be. It forces you to open your eyes, to confront uncomfortable realities, to see the wounds you've both ignored, to face the parts of yourself that you may not like. Sometimes the person who cheats realizes they were running from their own wounds, not from the marriage. Sometimes the person who was betrayed realizes they had been silent for too long, accommodating for too long, accepting emotional distance for too long. And when two people can face that truth together, honestly, vulnerably, courageously, something profound can happen. They can rebuild not only the marriage, but themselves. But here is the part many people forget. Healing is not linear. Some days will be hopeful. Other days will feel like starting over. Some moments will feel like progress. Others will hurt unexpectedly. A random memory, a small trigger, a quiet moment before sleep. Healing from betrayal is not a straight line. It is a spiral. You circle the pain again and again, but each time, you rise a little higher. A marriage that survives cheating does not return to the way it was. It becomes something new, something different, something built with more awareness, more humility, more intentionality. The relationship becomes rooted in truth, not illusion. And truth, even when painful, is a stronger foundation than comfort ever was. But let's be honest. Not all betrayals are the same. Not all cheaters feel remorse. Not all wounded partners want to heal. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away. Staying should never mean sacrificing your mental health, your self-worth, or your safety. Forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation. Closure does not always mean returning to what was broken. No one else can tell you whether your marriage should survive cheating. No one else lives in your home. No one else knows your partner's heart. No one else knows your own capacity to heal and forgive. And no one else has the right to judge the path you choose. You are the one who has to live with the decision. You are the one who must rebuild, either with your partner or without them. You are the one who must choose courage, growth, and self-respect. If you decide to leave, there is dignity in that choice. You are not weak for refusing to rebuild what someone else shattered. You are not bitter for protecting your heart. You are not unforgiving for choosing peace over pain. And if you decide to stay, there is dignity in that choice, too. You are not foolish for believing in transformation. You are not naive for fighting for love. You are not weak for wanting to heal rather than walk away. Your strength is not measured by whether you stay or leave. Your strength is measured by your honesty with yourself, your clarity, your willingness to grow, and your refusal to abandon your own heart in the process. So can a relationship survive cheating? Yes. But only if both hearts choose healing. Only if both hearts embrace truth. Only if both hearts commit to rebuilding something honest, something strong, something new. Cheating may be the end of the old marriage, but it can also be the beginning of a new one built on deeper understanding and stronger foundations. Or it may be the end of the marriage entirely, and the beginning of your personal transformation. Whichever path you choose, remember this. You are capable of healing. You are capable of rebuilding. You are capable of growing. You are capable of loving again, whether with the same partner or with someone new. You are capable of building a life that feels safe, connected, and true. Pain is not the end of your story. Betrayal is not the final chapter. You decide how the story continues. You decide what comes next. And no matter how broken things feel right now, your heart is still capable of rising. And it will.